The cage in the forest was silent, only the sound of leaves moving in the wind. Jace walked carefully, his boots pressing down soft moss. His scanner beeped now and then, picking up small energy traces. He had come to this remote planet to look for old tech, maybe something he could sell back home, but he didn't expect to find anything like this. As he pushed past thick vines, something strange appeared ahead of a metal wall. Hidden under broken branches and dirt, the scanner showed faint power still running through it. Jace stepped closer, wiping dust from a panel. It was alien-made. Old, but still holding together. Behind it, a dark tunnel led deeper into the ruins. He turned on his flashlight and entered. Inside, the air was heavy, the walls full of rust. But the structure remained strong. He kept walking, deeper and deeper, until he heard something very soft, a sound almost like crying. He stopped, held his breath, and listened. There it was, again, a soft sob, broken and tired, coming from somewhere ahead. Jace followed the sound, turning left, then right. Down a narrow hall. At the end, he found a small chamber, dark and cold. And in the middle of it a cage. It wasn't just any cage. It was built from thick alien steel, shaped like a prison cell, and inside it, curled in a corner, was someone, a girl. She was small, thin, her skin pale like moonlight, her arms hugged her knees, and she trembled as she cried. She had no clothes, only some dirty cloth wrapped around her like a rag. Her long silver hair covered most of her face, but Jace could see the tears running down her cheeks. Her whole body looked weak, like she hadn't eaten in days, maybe weeks. Jace froze. His heart started racing. Who was she? Why was she in a cage on this forgotten planet? Was she dangerous? Or was she the one in danger? He took a step forward, and the girl gasped. Her head jerked up. Her eyes, large and glowing purple, locked onto his, full of fear, pain, and something worse. Hopelessness. Jace raised his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. "Hey, it's okay," he said gently. "I'm not here to hurt you." The girl flinched, pressing herself against the back wall of the cage. She didn't speak, only watched him with wide, scared eyes. He stepped closer to the cage door, looking at the locks. They were old, cracked, and rusted, but still holding tight. He looked back at her. "You're safe now," he said softly. "I'm going to get you out of there." She shook her head, whispering something too soft to hear. He leaned in. "What did you say?" This time, her voice was barely stronger, full of pain. "Please, don't hurt me." Jace felt something heavy in his chest. His fingers touched the bars of the cage, cold and rough. Who would do this to someone? How long had she been here? Was she left to die? He pulled out a small tool from his belt and started working on the lock. Sparks flew as metal cracked. After a few minutes, the lock gave in with a loud click. The cage door creaked open slowly. The girl didn't move. Her body shook harder, like she thought he was lying. Like this was some trick. Jace knelt down and placed his coat gently on the floor near her. "You don't have to come out yet," he said, "but you don't have to stay in there either." She stared at the coat, then at him. Her hands moved slowly. Crawling toward the coat, she reached out with shaking fingers, touching the warm fabric. Then she grabbed it and pulled it close, wrapping herself inside. Like a blanket of safety, tears rolled down her cheeks again. But this time, they were quiet. Her lips moved silently, mouthing words she could not say. Jace didn't push her. He just stayed nearby, watching, waiting. He could see scars on her back, old ones and new. Proof that someone had hurt her many times. The sight made his stomach turn. He knew one thing: he couldn't leave her here, not like this. As the sun started to fall outside the ruins, Jace reached out his hand toward her. She looked at it for a long moment. Then, slowly, carefully, she placed her small, Cold hand in his, and just like that, the cage wasn't her prison anymore. It was the place she left behind. Jace carried the girl in his arms, her small body wrapped in his coat. She didn't weigh much, just skin and bones. Her head rested against his chest, eyes half closed, but her hand gripped his shirt tightly. Like letting go meant falling into darkness again. He didn't speak. He just walked through the cold forest with steady steps, trying not to scare her more. His camp was hidden under thick trees, a quiet place where he had set up his ship and a small shelter. The door slid open with a soft hiss, warm lights turning on automatically. The girl flinched at the sound. Jace paused, letting her calm down. "It's okay," he whispered. "You're safe here." Inside, he laid her gently on a soft bed. Her eyes scanned the room like a trapped animal, looking for danger. She tried to sit up, but her body was too weak. Her lips moved, but no words came out. Jace grabbed a bottle of water and sat beside her. Holding it out, "You need to drink," he said softly. She didn't take it. She only stared at the bottle like it was poison. Jace opened it and drank a small sip himself, then offered it again, slowly, shaking. She reached for it and took a few gulps. Her hands were still trembling, water spilling down her chin. But she drank, and that was something. Jace found some soft clothes, a large shirt and leggings. He turned around as she dressed, not looking. When he turned back, she was curled under the blanket, hiding her face. Her silver hair covered her like a veil, but her eyes peeked out from behind it. "I'm Jace," he said gently. "Can you tell me your name?" She stayed silent. Her lips moved, but the sound didn't come. She looked down, ashamed. As if not knowing her own name made her feel broken, Jace didn't press her. Instead, he pulled out a small energy bar, unwrapped it, and placed it near her. "If you're hungry, eat." Hours passed like that, with her lying still. Jace working quietly in the background, fixing wires, checking the ship, but keeping one eye on her. Sometimes she sat up and looked around, her hands gripping the blanket. Sometimes her eyes would fall on him, watching every move, like trying to understand if he was real or just another nightmare. That night, as he sat near the campfire outside, staring at the stars, he heard soft footsteps behind him. He turned on. There she was, standing at the doorway, her bare feet touching the cold floor, her eyes wide, unsure, her fingers held the edge of the door like she didn't know if she was allowed to come closer. "You can sit," Jace said with a small smile. "It's warm here." She stepped out slowly. Like every step was a test. She sat a few feet away from him, near the fire. Her eyes reflected the flames, glowing softly, like little galaxies. She didn't speak, but after a long pause, she whispered, "Why?" Jace looked at her, confused. "Why what? Why did you save me?" she asked, voice soft, shaky, like it hurt to speak. Everyone else left. Jace felt something break inside him. "Because no one should be left like that," he said. "Not you, not anyone." She looked at the fire again, her lips pressing together. Then she moved closer just a little, then more, until she was sitting right beside him. And then she reached out. Her small hand found his. She touched it gently, almost unsure, then wrapped her fingers around his. Jace didn't move. Her hand was cold, but her grip was firm, desperate. Like she was holding on to the only safe thing left in her world. She didn't let go, even when the fire burned low, even when he helped her back to bed, even when sleep pulled her down into dreams. Her fingers stayed wrapped around his. As if letting go meant going back into that cage. Jace sat beside her, watching her breathe. He saw the soft twitch of her eyes, the way her face relaxed now, not in fear, but in peace. A small tear rolled down her cheek, but this one, it didn't look like pain, it looked like release. And in that moment, Jace knew, this wasn't just a rescue. It wasn't just about helping someone escape a prison. This was something bigger. This was a beginning. And she wasn't just a girl in a cage anymore. She was someone who needed to heal, and maybe she would heal with him. The morning light was soft, slipping through the forest leaves like golden mist. Jace stood outside the shelter, watching the quiet sky. His hands still carried the warmth from her grip the night before. She hadn't spoken much, but her eyes had said everything: fear, sorrow, and something new. Trust. He looked back at the shelter. She was still sleeping, wrapped in his old coat, curled up like a child, save for the first time in Huna's Hollow. But Jace's mind wasn't at peace. Not yet. He had to know what happened. Who locked her up? Why? And was she the only one? He grabbed his gear and set off toward the ruins again, this time with purpose. The same ruined wall greeted him, its metal still humming with weak energy. He passed the cage, the one he had broken open. The door still hung wide, swinging slightly. In the wind, it felt like a crime scene now. He moved deeper into the broken structure. Stepping over cracked floors and burnt wires, the deeper he went, the colder it got, like the shadows still held screams from the past. He found what looked like an old lab room, its glass walls shattered. A console blinked in the corner still. Alive, Jace powered it up with a small core. Screens flickered to life, showing static, numbers, alien text. But one button stood out, a log playback icon glowing red. He tapped it. Footage played, a small cell, white walls. Sterile light, the same girl Langer, smaller, curled in a corner, staring at the floor. Voices in the background, speaking in an alien language, fast and cold. Another clip showed her tied to a chair, machines scanning her body. She flinched, screamed silently. No one touched her gently. No one cared. Jace's jaw tightened. His hands curled into fists. These weren't scientists. They were monsters. He skipped forward. And then his heart stopped. A human appeared in the recording, wearing a gray uniform, walking through the lab, standing right in front of her cage. She looked up at him with the same hopeful eyes she gave Jace, but the man turned and left without saying a word. He didn't help her. He abandoned her. Jace stared at the screen. Burning the man's face into his memory, a nameplate flickered on his suit, Dr. Kern. Jace knew that name. It was in the Galactic Registry, someone rich. Someone powerful. He had buried the truth here and left a girl behind like trash. Jace turned off the console, anger building inside him. But more than that, he felt shame. Another human had done this to her, one of his own. And now she was scared of him because of what someone like him had done. He kept searching the room, finding more twisted tools, restraints, shock devices, old syringes, and in a locked drawer, he found a thin notebook, written in half English, half Phalian script. He read it slowly. His heart sank deeper with every page. They had called her Subject 3. They believed her species had special genes. They ran tests, painful ones. They wanted to turn her into something else, something useful. One page said, shows signs of emotional bonding under extreme isolation. Another said, displays strong attachment when exposed to humankind and a possible training opportunity. Jace felt sick. They hadn't seen her as a person, just a thing to train, to use, as he left the ruins. One more sound made him freeze. A crunch behind him, footsteps. He spun, weapon raised, but the path was empty. Trees whispered, but no one was there. Was he being watched? Or was it just the wind? He didn't wait to find out. He rushed back through the forest, heart pounding. He had what he needed. But someone might still be out there. Someone who knew she was alive when he returned to the shelter. The girl was awake, sitting by the window. Her eyes lit up when she saw him, but her smile faded when she noticed the sweat on his face. "You're shaking," she said softly. Jace knelt in front of her, held her hand. "I found the place." He said, "I saw what they did to you." She looked away, ashamed again, as if it was her fault. He touched her chin, made her look at him. "It wasn't you," he said. "They were wrong." She blinked, tears rising again. "Will they come back?" "Jace didn't lie, maybe," he said, "but I won't let them take you." For a long time, they sat in silence, just holding each other's hands. Two strangers, one from pain, one from guilt, trying to build something safe in a dangerous world. And outside, hidden among the trees, a drone blinked quietly in the shadows. Watching, waiting, the days passed slowly, like soft raindrops falling on dry ground. Jay spent most of his time repairing the ship's systems, checking for signals, and watching the skies. But his mind always returned to the girl, Lena. That's the name he had quietly started calling her. She hadn't said it was her name, but when he whispered it once, she didn't flinch. She looked at him, blinked, and nodded. She was healing, but slowly, her body still thin, her steps still weak. But her eyes began to lose that constant fear. She moved through the shelter with quiet feet, always looking over her shoulder, but less, and less each day. She watched everything Jace did, fixing tools, cooking food, cleaning wires. Like every small action was a new kind of magic. One morning, he found her staring at the food warmer. Curious, but unsure, Jace smiled and waved her over. "Come here," he said. "Want to help me cook?" She hesitated, then stepped forward, barefoot and careful. He handed her a soft fruit and showed her how to peel it. Her hands shook at first, but she copied him. Her fingers clumsy but trying. He didn't rush her. He just let her take her time. When she finally peeled it right, she looked up at him, waiting for his reaction. He gave her a thumbs up and said, "Perfect." Her lips moved slightly, the corners turning up just a little. Not much, but it was the beginning. He saw it, a smile, later that day. Jace brought out a small tablet, basic, old, but still working. He opened a drawing app and handed it to her. "Here," he said, "try this." She looked at the screen, then at him. Unsure, he showed her how to use her finger to draw. Slowly, she touched it, dragging a shaky line across the screen. Then, another. And another. She drew a shape, something like a sun. Or a flower, or a star. It didn't matter. Her eyes sparkled just a little more as she drew. Her breathing lighter. Her body less tense. Every small action was a piece of her coming back to life. At night, they sat near the campfire again. Lena hugged her knees, watching the flames. "Do you always live like this?" she asked suddenly, her voice still soft, but stronger than before. Jace shrugged. "Not always." He replied, "Sometimes I go to cities. Sometimes I hunt old tech, but I like the quiet places." She nodded. "Quiet is nice." He looked at her. "Do you remember where you're from?" Her smile faded. Her head lowered. "No," she whispered. "Only pain." Cage's voices shouting. Jace's heart tightened. "That's over now," he said gently. "You don't have to go back." She looked at him, her eyes shining with something he hadn't seen before, not just fear or sadness, but hope. Then, just as the fire crackled, Jace pulled out a small packet of protein crackers and opened it with a loud pop. The sudden sound made him jump, and he fumbled the packet, the crackers flying into the air and landing in his lap. He looked at them, then at her. She stared, and then she laughed. It was small at first, a soft sound, like the wind through leaves. But it grew, her shoulders shaking, her face brightening. She covered her mouth, as if surprised at her own sound. Her eyes watered not from sadness, but from joy. Jace laughed too, wiping crumbs from his pants. "Yeah, real smooth," he joked. "Should have been a space clown." She giggled again, this time freer. And Jace knew this was the moment that changed everything. Lena wasn't just a survivor now. She was living later as she sat beside Him leaning her head against his arm, she whispered, "Thank you for not leaving me." He looked up at the stars, the same ones that watched over her cage, the same ones that now watched her smile. "You're not alone anymore," he said. "Not ever again." Far away, deep in the trees, something mechanical stirred. A small red light blinked 3 times, then went dark. It began with a sound Jace hadn't heard in weeks, a soft, sharp ping from his ship's motion scanner. He looked at the screen, eyes narrowing, a signal. Moving fast across the sky, heading straight for the forest. He didn't like it. He checked the code again, encrypted. Not civilian. It was a private ship. No ID, no beacon. Just a shadow cutting through the clouds. Jace's gut twisted. He knew that kind of silence meant only one thing. Hunters. He ran outside. Lena was in the clearing, sitting quietly by a tree, drawing strange shapes in the dirt with a stick. When she saw his face, her hands froze. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice already shaking. Jace dropped to one knee beside her. "We have to hide," he said softly. Now, Lena's eyes filled with panic. "They found me," she whispered. "They always find me." Jace grabbed her hand. Not. This time, they moved fast, slipping into the side shelter, a small bunker under the ground he had dug months ago to store supplies. He helped her inside and handed her a comm device. "No matter what you hear," he told her, "stay quiet. Stay hidden. I'll come for you." She didn't want to let go of his hand. But he pressed her fingers around the comm. "Trust me," he whispered. Then he shut the hatch. The sound of engines roared through the sky, shaking leaves and stirring dust. A ship landed near the old ruins, sleek and black, its body covered in armor. 3 figures stepped out, 2 in heavy gear, 1 in a long coat, scanning the area. Jace watched them from a ridge, hidden behind trees. One of the figures had a scanner like his, but older, hacked to track life signs. The man in the coat pulled out a datapad and pointed toward the forest. "They know she was here," Jace muttered. Under his breath, he had one advantage: they didn't know she was gone, or that someone was protecting her. Not yet. He ran to his trap lines, activating defense measures, buried spikes, smoke mines, sound blasters. The tools weren't much, but they would slow them down, maybe long enough to escape. The hunters moved like wolves, checking the ruins, the cage, the consoles. Jace saw their face, seas cold, focused, not a hint of mercy. One of them kicked the broken cage and laughed. "Still warm?" he said. "She's close." Jace felt fire rise in his chest. He'd met men like this before, cowards in armor. Dangerous. Only when the target couldn't fight back. But Lena wasn't alone anymore, and he wasn't running. When the first trap went off, smoke filled the path between the ruins and his camp. The hunters cursed and scattered. A blast of light flashed, followed by the sharp scream of a sensor-piercing one suit with darts. Jace moved like a ghost, using the distraction to circle around. But they adapted fast. The leader barked orders. In a coded tongue, 2 broke off toward the camp. One scanned every inch of ground as he moved, getting closer and closer to the shelter. Inside the bunker, Lena held the comm tight in both hands. Her breath came in short bursts, her body frozen. She could hear the footsteps above her, slow and heavy, the sound of metal scraping against rock, the crunch of boots right outside the door. She closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Please," she whispered. "Please don't find me." Suddenly silence, then a crash. Jace dropped from a tree above, slamming into the hunter with a shock rod. The man went down hard, sparks flying from his armor. But the other one turned and fired, the shot grazing Jace's shoulder. He fell back, rolling through the dirt, pain flashing through him. Blood soaked his sleeve. But he got up again. He had to. He tackled the second hunter before he could reload. Fists flying, rage in every punch. "You're not taking her." Jace growled. "Not again," when the fight was over. Two hunters lay broken on the ground. Jace limped toward the hatch and knocked twice slow and soft. It opened. Lena stared at him, blood on his face. His eyes tired but alive. "You came back," she whispered. "I told you I would," he replied, smiling through the pain. She rushed into his arms, holding him tighter than ever before, shaking but safe. Behind them, a shadow moved. The third hunter, the leader, watched from the trees. Silent and still, he didn't act. He didn't fire. He simply turned and walked back to the ship, watching, waiting, knowing this was far from over. The camp was silent, smoke still hanging in the air from the last trap. Jace leaned against the wall of the shelter, pressing cloth to his bleeding shoulder. Lena sat beside him, her hands trembling as she tried to help. "I'm okay," he whispered. But the pain in his voice told a different story. She looked at him, her glowing eyes full of fear. "You're hurt because of me," she said, voice shaking. "No," Jace replied, his jaw tight. "I'm hurt because they don't know how to let go." Outside, night had fallen, but the danger hadn't left. The third hunter was still out there. He hadn't attacked, hadn't chased. But Jace knew his type, calculating, patient. The kind who waited for weakness before striking. Lena kept glancing at the trees, jumping at every sound. "He'll come back," she whispered. "They always come back." Jace tightened the straps on his weapon belt, despite the pain in his arm. "Then we'll be ready," he said. "We fight this time." That night, Jace rigged more traps, reinforced the shelter, and gave Lena a small stun blade. "Only use it if you have to," he told her, "but don't be afraid to use it." She took it with shaking hands, nodding slowly. "I don't want to hurt anyone," she said. "But I don't want to go back in a cage." Jace looked her in the eyes. "You won't," he promised. The attack came just before dawn. A sudden blast shook the side of the camp, fire roaring up into the sky. Jace was already moving, dragging Lena into the trees, smoke covering their trail. The third hunter stepped through the flames, no longer hiding. His armor gleamed black and silver, and his helmet glowed red. He moved like a shadow, fast and silent. His weapon was unlike the others, sleek, deadly, designed for one target. Lena fired the first shot. It missed. The hunter returned fire, and Jace dove behind a fallen tree. The ground shook as blasts tore through the forest, leaves burning, bark flying. This was no longer a chase. It was war. Lena ran through the trees, heart pounding. The stun blade clutched tight in her hand. Jace's voice echoed in her head. "Don't be afraid to fight." But her legs felt like air, and her breath came in sharp gasps. She tripped once, scraped her knees, but got up again. She wouldn't be taken. Jace tried to flank the hunter, using shadows and silence, but the man was trained, ready, always a step ahead. Jace was slammed against a rock, pain exploding in his side. His weapon clattered to the ground, too far to reach. The hunter stepped over him, cold eyes behind the mask. "You're just a scavenger," the man said flatly. "She's property." Jace spat blood at his feet. "She's not," he growled. "She's a person." The hunter raised his weapon, but before he could fire, Lena screamed. She burst from the trees, eyes wide with fury and fear. She leaped forward and stabbed the stun blade into the side of the hunter's neck. Sparks burst from the device. The man howled, stumbling back, swinging wildly, but missing. She grabbed Jace's arm, pulling him up. "Run!" she cried. Now they ran through the fire and smoke, the forest glowing with battle. The hunter chased them, limping, his armor sparking, rage boiling in his voice. "You don't get to leave," he roared. "She belongs to us." But Jace wasn't running anymore. He turned, lifting a detonator from his belt. "You want to take her?" He shouted, "Then come and get her." He pressed the button. The last trap exploded behind them, swallowing the hunter in a blast of fire, smoke, and dirt. The shockwave knocked Jace and Lena off their feet, but when they looked back, there was only silence. The forest slowly returned to stillness, smoke rising into the soft morning light. Jace pulled himself to his knees, panting, heart pounding. Lena crawled beside him, tears mixing with soot on her cheeks. "You saved me," he said softly, voice breaking. She shook her head. "You saved me first." They sat in the ash, holding each other, trembling, but alive for the first time. Lena didn't feel like prey. For the first time, she had fought back and won. The forest was quiet again. Smoke on, fire cooled. Silence resting like a blanket over the ashes. Jace and Lena stood in the clearing, side by side. Watching the wind carry the last pieces of battle into the trees, the hunter was gone. Nothing left but burned metal and scorched earth. But something had changed, not just in the forest, in them. Jace touched the cut on his face, still raw but healing. His other arm hung in a sling, broken from the final fall, but his eyes were clear. Focused, Lena stood beside him, barefoot, hair tangled, face covered in dirt but standing tall, stronger than ever. They returned to the shelter. What was left of it? The walls were cracked, systems damaged, but the core still worked. Jace limped inside, checked the ship controls. His fingers moved slowly, carefully. "We've got enough power," he said quietly. "We can leave this place." Lena looked around the room that had become her safe spot, her quiet nest. "Where would we go?" she asked. Jace smiled. "Anywhere we want." She hesitated, looking down at her hands, fingers still stained with ash and old blood. "Will they come again?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper. Jace paused, then nodded. "Maybe," he said honestly. "But next time?" "We won't run." She nodded too, something bright shining in her eyes. "I don't want to hide anymore." Together, they loaded the supplies, cleared the wreckage, and prepared the ship. Lena helped where she could, moving boxes, checking tools, even learning to lock down flight paths. She wasn't the same girl who cried in the cage. That girl was gone, and as the ship lifted into the sky, rising above the treetops, Lena sat in the co-pilot seat, staring out the window, watching. The forest shrank into green waves beneath them. "It feels strange," she said, "like I'm waking up after a long sleep." Jace looked at her. "You are?" he replied. They landed 2 systems over, on a quiet moon station where travelers passed without questions. Jace filed reports with the Galactic Registry. Not about the lab, but about Lena. He stood before the officer's desk while Lena sat nearby, wrapped in a clean tunic, hands folded in her lap. The officer asked, "Name of rescued individual." Lena looked up, confused. "I don't have one," she said. The officer frowned. "We need something." Jace leaned forward. "She's not a number anymore," he said. "She gets to choose." Lena turned to him, surprised. "I can choose." He smiled. "It's your life now." She sat quiet for a moment, then slowly said, "Lena." The officer nodded, typing it in, and last name. She looked at Jay's eyes, full of something deep, something soft. "Can I take yours?" she asked. Jace's throat tightened. He nodded, unable to speak. "Lena Jace," she said, the name sitting gently on her lips. "I want to be someone new." The papers were signed, identity created, freedom granted. No more Subject 3. No more cage. Just Lena J, survivor, fighter, free soul, back on the ship. As the stars stretched around them, Lena sat beside Jace in the cockpit. They didn't speak much, just looked at the stars, the space ahead of them wide and open, full of paths they hadn't walked yet. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Where do we go now?" she asked. Jace smiled. "Wherever you feel like being happy." For the first time in her life, she believed him. And as the ship soared quietly into the darkness, the girl who had once wept in silence now carried her own name, her own story, her own light.